I'm Brian, and welcome to BattlefieldResumes.com Leadership Podcast, where my twin brother Bruce and I are committed to building better leaders. From webcasts to webinars, podcasts to personal services, one-on-one coaching and online opportunities, remember, the key to success begins with building the leader in you. As part of the John Maxwell team, we want to live out the principles that John teaches. This is our rule of 5 that we seek to practice every day. To lead, to grow, to create, to excel, and to serve. Please visit us at BattlefieldResumes.com. And remember, make today count.
All right. This is Bruce Benedict, president of Battlefield Resumes. Well, tonight we're going to talk about connecting goes beyond words. This is from a John Maxwell book, Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. As a certified John Maxwell speaker, coach, and trainer, I'm going to go through this lesson because I think it has a lot to do with a veteran's transition from the military to the civilian workforce. Now, as you know, Battlefield Resumes focuses on making that transition easy for veterans. And, you know, one of the challenges that a veteran has, and look, I was a veteran just like everybody else, is that when you transition, you don't really know what you're getting into. And it's scary. You know, the anxiety goes high. Your family's counting on you to succeed like you succeeded in the military. But it's extremely stressful. There's a lot of weight put on your shoulders. You know, thank God for the spouses out there because, you know, they were with you. If you're married, they were with you during the trials and tribulations growing up in the service. So they understand you probably better than you understand yourself. You know, they take care of their side of your family and you take care of another side of your family. And the two of you work as a team. You are the backbone of the Army, but you know what? The two of you and your spouse, communicating together and working together are a phenomenal team. And only in the military do you realize that. And when you get out of the military, it's even more important. Even more important. You can't do anything successfully without your spouse. Now, whether that's a female spouse or a male spouse, doesn't matter. Without your spouse. The two of you, it's like yin and yang. You have to be working cohesively together. And one of the challenges is, you know, when you get out of the service or when you're transitioning from the service, the challenge is you're going into such an unfamiliar world. It's almost more unfamiliar, believe it or not. I mean, it's almost more unfamiliar than when you deployed, if you deployed, but when you deployed into Iraq or Afghanistan. Well, let's take it back even further. It's more unfamiliar to you than when you entered the military. I mean, think about it. So you grew up, if you're like me, and look, I use myself as an example all the time because, you know, I grew up in the Midwest. And I knew from the day I was born I was going to go into the military. I didn't know what service I was going to go into, but I knew I was going to go into the military. It was just in my blood. And so throughout elementary, junior high, high school, I studied the military. I knew I was going to go in. I was ready for it. And so at the point in which, and I was 18, the point in which I actually signed up, and I signed up my junior year, right after I turned 17. The moment I signed up I was relieved. I was like, yes, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I've always wanted to do. And then I went into the military with my twin brother, Brian, he's not on the call tonight, but we're thinking about him. He's out working tonight. But he and I both, 2 days after high school, went into the military, went to the MEP station, but we were both ready for it. Now, look, no one, I guess you can say, is ready for basic training. No one's ready and prepared for the culture of the military. But mentally, we were prepared to take on the unknown. And that's important. The challenge is I have spent more years growing up in the military than I ever did with my mom and dad. I literally call the military my growing up years because it's formed me. And I went in at 18 and I got out at around 39. Brian, went in for about 4 or 5 years and PCS'd a couple times and then got out. So he knows what it's like for all of you out there who leave the military with less than 10 years. Now, all of us know the 10-year mark is the key. The 10-year mark is one of those in the military in which everyone looks at as the decision point. Now, let's just call it for what it is. Let's use some military terms out there so all of us understand. All right? All of us understand the language. The decision point was the 10-year mark. So either you got out before the 10-year mark or you got out after the 10-year mark. Nothing was wrong with you before or after. It doesn't matter. Either you're a lifer or you're not a lifer. Okay? Either way, you both go through the same type of transition. It's a transition into a world that you think you know, that you think and assume that will accept you for the awesome stuff that you did and the service, the selfless service, right, that you served the military. The challenge is when you get out and when you're, well, let's say before you get out, you finally realize it's really not the same way you perceived. So unlike when you entered the service, you knew it was going to be tough. You didn't know how tough. You knew it was going to be tough. You knew it was a different culture. You knew you may have to deploy. You knew you had to shoot a gun. You may have to shoot someone. You're defending America. All right, which is admirable. That's why all of us join. All right, 100% American. Doesn't matter what color, doesn't matter what background. All of us that are in the service, we don't see colors of people, we don't see backgrounds of people. All right, if you're in the service, it's just you and I. All of us are American. All right, I'm here to protect you, you're here to protect me. The two of us are here to protect the United States of America. The problem is when you get out of the service, oftentimes you're not prepared, or it catches you by surprise. That's probably a better way to think of it, is it catches you by surprise because you think it's going to be welcoming and a little easier than when you transitioned into the military. But it's about 180 degrees off. All right? Now, when you transition into the civilian workforce, the challenge is most of our military occupational specialties we think anyway, relate, well, there's a dilemma maybe in how they're related to the civilian workforce. That's no, challenge. I mean, it's just a challenge for everybody. It's not a huge problem. The problem is when we leave the military and our families are counting on us to maintain a quality of life, the stress level goes up because, look, all of us, myself included, always, I could take any job. I used to tell my wife all the time, the best job in the world, let me just gas. Let me be a greeter at Walmart. All right? Let me just do something where it doesn't, there's no stress. If I wanted to, I had the option to progress inside the company. But I needed something that was enjoyable. I wasn't worried at the time of salary, with the salary aspect. The challenge is you have always been, will always be, responsible for maintaining the quality of life of your family. And I'm going to try to help you maintain that. The transition for me, if you've listened, has been challenging, all right? I would say 2 years to 3 years after retirement, it was challenging. After that, I got in the groove. I understood the military. I understood the military transition, and then I understood the civilian workforce. And now I'm willing to share that with everybody so you don't have to go through the same problems as I. So let's go through a little bit of this. We talk about job searching, and all of you know that Battlefield Resumes, my brother and I, we work with all kinds of veterans, all kinds of active duty transition, all kinds of spouses of veterans, find jobs. That's what we do. Love doing it. We also help with resume writing. We help with cover letters. We help with interview preparation. But the challenge with all that is you kind of have to know the direction that you want to go. And for many of us military, we don't know that. So how do you know? How do you become familiar with the civilian workforce well enough to know what you're qualified to do, what you're not qualified to do, ultimately how to get the highest paying job possible with your, that aligns to your military background? Well, one of the key areas, and it's a lot of people will argue against this, but most people will believe that 80% of all hires come from networking. Basically come from referrals. So let's take for example, if you were trying to get a job and you were telling your family members that they knew you were exiting the military and you wanted to get an opportunity to be employed someplace downtown. So a family member knows a friend or a neighbor who refers you to the company, and then you get an interview. All right, that's a referral. Same thing if you're using LinkedIn and you have met virtual friends who you become friends with virtually, who then refer you to an organization because they know you. All right, so that's what we're talking about with the 80% of all hires are from networking. All right, the other type of referrals that I'm not talking about tonight is people who actually work in companies that offer bonuses for referrals. That's not what I'm talking about, because that's not a connection that you have with them. They don't care as much about you as you may believe. What they are motivated by is the money. If they refer so many resumes to a company, then they will get paid bonuses if those individuals get hired. All right. Oftentimes, those are called headhunters. Some of the companies that have bonuses for referrals who actually get hired and work for 6 months will actually get bonuses. So you kind of have to watch that. But right now, tonight, what we're going to talk about is how to develop a good network. What do you need to do to develop a good network of people who will understand your character, who you really are? Not the anger that's coming out, not the aggravation with the transition, not the anxiety or the stress that you're feeling, but who you are as a person. Once they understand that, and once you become basically friends with them, then they will refer you by using their name. Okay, they're going to use their name to refer you. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. All right, under the John Maxwell, everyone communicates, few connect. This is going to be titled Connecting Goes Beyond Words. All right, as an admin note, if you want to call in, if you're listening tonight and you want to call in and you want to ask a question, I'm always up for questions. The call-in number is 929-477-4063. All right, it's 929-477-4063. All right. So connecting goes beyond words. Now, when many people try to communicate with others, they believe the message is all that matters. But the reality is that communication goes way beyond the words. In an important study that UCLA psychology professor Albert Rabian discovered, that face-to-face communication can be broken down into 3 components. Now, these may sound pretty easy, but they're 3 components: words, the tone of voice, and the body language. What may come as a surprise is that in some situations, what people see us do and the tone we use can far outweigh any words we say while trying to communicate, all right, with others. In situations where feelings and attitudes are being communicated, what we say accounts for only 7% of what is believed. The way we say things accounts for 38%. But what others see in us accounts for 55%. Now, as you know, some of the stories that you're thinking about right now, I mean, look, I have stories as well. You can practice with the people that you know to see if this is accurate. Now remember, 7% is what we say. 38% is the way we say it. And 55% what others see from us. So maybe you can practice this. Well, let me give you an example of something that I saw today. So an individual walks up to me today and gives me numerous documentation to read. And as you would expect, the individual dumps the paperwork in front of me and basically laughs and says in a manner that it's, basically conveying that there's a lot of information there, and it would behoove me to read that information. And so for me, I decided to make this a test for tonight's broadcast. And I turned to the individual and I said enjoyingly that I would love to read all of this information. It would thrill me to death. And it would make me extremely happy to learn so much information in such a short period of time. The individual, now keep in mind what I was saying, how I was saying it, and then what you can, imagine my face looking like. And I was trying this out so I could use it tonight because, I want you to test your abilities with those that you work around. I mean, you really need to do that to understand how you're coming across. Basically, emotional intelligence is what they call it nowadays. And so the individual looks at me in disbelief and makes a comment to me that I'm being sarcastic. And why would you think that the individual would say that I'm being sarcastic? Maybe the tone, it wasn't what I said. It was either the tone of what I said or the way I looked when I said it. So I would only challenge you to test this out with those around you. And just like the military, rehearse. Well, if you rehearse some of these things like this, like sarcastic talk, the language that you're saying is different than what the tone of voice is, or should be. It doesn't mirror each other. What you're saying is different than your facial features, and then understand how it's perceived by the reaction of the individual you're talking to. It'll better prepare you when you go and talk to people to try to get a job, to try to network. Then you can use that skill. All right? You can use that skill to your advantage. You can feed off of people. You don't want to test on them. You're going to test on others who aren't going to impact your employment. But by the time you start talking to those who may or may not, basically may impact your employment, you will be very, very good at the skill. All right. Now, amazingly, more than 90% of the impression we often convey has nothing to do with what we actually say. So as you can tell, as I was basically conveying my impression was different than what I was saying in that statement. Now, the three components of communication. Let's talk about those real quick. The three components is thought, emotion, and action. Thought, meaning something we know. Emotion, meaning something we feel. And action, meaning something we do. Now, I believe these three components are essential to connect as well. failure to include any one of the three, there inevitably will be a disconnection from people and a breakdown in communication. All right, here's how I think the breakdown would occur. If I try to communicate something I know but don't feel, then my communication oftentimes it comes across as dispassionate. Now, something I know but I don't do, then my communication comes across as theoretical. Now, other times, when I feel but don't know, then my communication is theoretical again. Something I feel but do not do, my communication is hypocritical. Well, let's go back. So something I know but don't feel is dispassionate. Something I know but don't do is theoretical. Something I feel but don't know is theoretical. And then something I feel but don't do is hypocritical. This is how my communication comes across. Now, something I do but I don't know, my communication comes across as presumptuous. Something I do but don't feel, my communication comes across as mechanical. So this is extremely important. You know, when you're looking at how to communicate and connect with people that you're trying to ultimately get a job with or have refer you, you know, you have to take a step back and go, okay, now, before I tell them that I need a job, before I start begging them for a job, I need to connect with them. I want them to know me for who I am. And I want to know them for not only who they are, not only for who they currently work for, but who else they may know. It's extremely important. It's all about connections. That one person may know multiple people in a community that could help you out. So you have to think about all of that. Now, a lot of this obviously is emotional, positive thinking. One of the elements that I wanted to share also tonight, how to share thinking as well. So some people naturally participate in shared thinking. Now, when you're trying to connect with someone, what's an easy way to connect with them? All right, act as if you have some shared experiences, shared thinking. Anytime that somebody sees a problem, they would think, who do I know who can help me with this? Do you ask yourself that question? Who do I know who can help me with this problem? Well, leaders tend to be that way. And so do a lot of extroverts. Now, many of us, like myself, I grew up, I believe, as an introvert. I believe I'm an introvert still today. However, I do really enjoy to learn about people. Growing up, I didn't think it was my place to ask people questions about their personal life. I could ask them questions about work, about their car, social activities, but for me to ask a person a question about their personal life, spouse, kids, their history, it was beyond me. I couldn't do it. I just, for some reason, I grew up that way, and that hindered me for a long time. But remember, people really enjoy talking about themselves. You just have to be interested in them. Let them talk. I mean, it's amazing, when we talk about these things, when you actually know what success looks like in this realm, when you talk to somebody and you are only asking them questions or not even saying anything at all, you spend an hour with them, a half hour, whatever it is, you may even just say, yeah, yeah. And then after the conversation, they go back and tell their significant other that you were the best listener they ever had. You and them had a conversation that was fantastic for a half hour or an hour. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, really? I didn't say a word. It was literally the best conversation that person ever had. Why? Because they talked about themselves and they didn't talk about the other person. You truly cared. You connected with them on an emotional level. Remember the three components of communication: thought, emotion, and action. All right? Emotion being something we feel. So you conveyed that you felt for them. You understood them. Your emotions, your action, actually conveyed that you were engrossed in their conversation. All right? And you were intelligent and you thought about their situation. So you cared about their situation. You asked them follow-up questions about their situation. You truly cared about their situation more than your own. In the military, we would call that selfless service. Remember, selfless service in the service, right? When you were serving in the military, everyone prided themselves on selfless service to the country. Don't think about yourself. Think about the country. Think about your coworker. Think about your battle buddy. Selfless service. Now, when you're trying to connect with somebody on the outside and get a job, think of selfless service. Don't take the microphone away from them when they're talking. When they give you the microphone to talk about yourself, you give the microphone right back to them. Let them talk about themselves. You want them to feel good about themselves. You actually want them to feel better about themselves when they finish talking to you than they felt when they were talking or with someone else any time in their life. They want to feel good about themselves. They will remember you because of the emotion they felt. Remember, thought, emotion, action. In order to do that, you have to be emotionally secure. So you have to think of yourself. Think to yourself, are you emotionally secure? So people who lack confidence and worry about their status or their position or their power tend to reject the ideas of others. They protect their own turf and they keep people at bay. It takes a secure person, just like you, to ensure and secure the conversation. Years ago, an emotional, insecure person took a key position on one of the boards that I had. After a couple meetings, it became obvious to another board member that this individual would not positively contribute to the organization. Then we ask the leader on the board, why does this person always do and say things that hinder our progress? I'll never forget the reply that they gave. Hurting people hurt people. Now, do I place value on people? That's the other thing you have to ask. So you won't value the ideas of a person if you don't value and respect the person himself or herself. Have you ever considered your conduct around people that you value versus those that you don't? Now let's look at the difference. If I value a person, that means that I want to spend time with that person. I want to listen to that person. I want to help that person. I am influenced by that person. And then I respect that person. If I don't value a person, then I don't want to be around that person. I neglect to listen to that person. I don't offer that person any help. I ignore that person, and then I am indifferent to that person. That's pretty powerful. And I'm sure there's people out there that you know that you categorize in one of those two areas. Let's go through them one more time. If I value someone, that means that I want to spend time with them. If I value someone, I enjoy listening to them. If I value someone, then I want to help them. If I value someone, I am influenced by them. And ultimately, if I value someone, I respect them. Conversely, if I don't value someone, which many of us can probably relate to, then I don't want to be around them. Now, obviously, these are things that you don't want to convey to the individuals that you are trying to connect with. It's all about connection, networking to get a job. So if I don't value someone, I will come across as I don't want to be around them. If I don't value someone, I will come across to them as I neglect to listen to them. If I don't value someone, then I will come across to them as I don't offer them any help. If I don't value someone, then I will again come across to them as ignoring them and then being indifferent. So that's pretty powerful, and it's something that you need to think about when you're practicing with others. Now, obviously, rehearse, just like the military. Military told us that all the time. Many of us did it. Many of us didn't. Okay? And so my recommendation is practice. I'm giving you these concepts, this help. Take it and practice it so you can use it on the civilian workforce. Look, the majority of non-military people out there have not gone through the leadership training that you have as a veteran. You've gone through leadership training. You've been in leadership positions. You are prepared to transition. Somebody like me and Battlefield Resumes needs to convey to you how to do it as if it's doctrine. You know, what's the doctrine out there, the military doctrine to transition into the civilian workforce. That's what we're here to do. We're here to help you understand what the doctrine is for the transition. Well, let's move on a little bit. Now, connecting visually, what people see. Now, it's interesting because, I work around a lot of military. Obviously grew up 21 years in the service. And it's fascinating. I used to joke about it when I was in the military. As a civilian, I joked about it about 3 or 4 years out of the service. But after that, it just became a sad fact. And that is when you walk down the road or walk down the hallway, everyone tries to put on the meanest face ever. A meaner, stern face than the person walking towards them. It's almost a competition. I used to laugh about it in the military because as you're walking towards some other service member who's walking towards you, it was almost a face-off is what I would call it. Who looks more strack than the other, right? Who looks more military? Who's tougher than the person walking towards them? And then basically you walk past each other and then it's over. But as you're walking towards somebody, there's always this mean face. And it gets to be more militarily mean as the closer they come to you. It's fascinating to watch and analyze. It's just a fact of life. And as a military guy, I did it. I still do it. It's just inherent. It's my culture. It's how I grew up. All right? It's how most of us grew up. The challenge is the civilian workforce doesn't work that way. All right? So in the military, it's I hate to relate it, but it's to anything else. But, you're trying to be tougher than the next person. And one way to do that is that, you're better than the next person because why? Your boots look better, your uniform looks better, hat looks better, haircut looks better, and your face looks meaner than everybody else. Okay, so when you get out and you get on the civilian side, they don't want to see that because that conveys to them that you have not mentally transitioned. And that is extremely important. Have you mentally transitioned from the military? If you haven't mentally transitioned from the military, you potentially will cause civilian employers problems regarding human resource actions, equal opportunity actions. Remember, all of these complaints, the civilian workforce supports the employer. The military supports the leader. So in the service, in the military, the UCMJ mandates that every person in the military obey their leadership. Whether the leadership, at whatever level, gives them a bad order, they are to obey it and then report it. In the civilian workforce, that is not the way it works. In the civilian workforce, the system supports the employee. And so now it becomes a challenge for the supervisor to motivate and lead employees based on the appropriate way of treating people. Not the military way, but the civilian way. And so that transition you really have to look into. If you think that you're qualified for a lot of supervisory jobs in the civilian workforce and you are not getting asked for interviews, or you're getting the interview but not getting hired, one thing you may want to look at is the way you're coming across. If you're trying to come across as a stern military, I hold people accountable leader, that may not be what the civilian world is looking for. They know from your actions and emotions that you are great in the military, but they need a civilian leader. Because if they were, in their mind, to put you in that position, they may incur a lot of employee complaints. And they don't want to do that. They want to protect their employees, but they also want somebody who can use the system and motivate the employees and keep the employees happy. And so that's a challenge. So it's just one of those things that you're going to have to look at. So as emotions go, something we feel, connecting emotionally, remember, this is what people feel. So John Cotter, an author and a friend of John Maxwell, recently wrote a book titled A Sense of Urgency. In it, he stated, "For centuries, we have heard the expression, great leaders win over the hearts and minds of others." Now note that he doesn't say that great leaders win over the minds of others, nor does he say that they win over others' minds and hearts. The heart comes first. And if we desire to be good communicators, we need to always keep in mind that the heart comes first. Now, if you want to win over another person, first you must win their heart, and the rest is likely to follow. People may hear your words, but they feel attitude. All right, let me repeat that. People may hear your words, but they feel your attitude. It's just one thing that you're going to have to work on as a transitioning service member when it comes to leadership. People will not always remember what you said. They will not always remember what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. All right? People will not always remember what you said. They will not always remember what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. Now, that is extremely important when you are trying to connect with someone. What you are trying to convey to them is a positive attitude. You're trying to convey to them a positive attitude, not just for yourself, but you're trying to convey a positive attitude so you can make them feel better about themselves. Remember, people will always remember how you made them feel. Now, I like Joel Osteen, too, and one of the quotes from Joel Osteen in his book, The Power of I Am, Chapter 2, Be Positive or Be Quiet. And one of the quotes was, "Words are like seeds. When you speak something out, you give it life to what you're saying." You basically give life to what you're saying.
You are where you are today in part because of what you've been saying about yourself. Words are like seeds. When you speak something out, you give life to what you are saying. If you continue to say it, eventually it will come true. It'll be reality, whether you realize it or not. You're prophesizing your future. This is great when you're saying things such as, I'm blessed, I'm strong, I'm accomplished. That's not just being positive. You're actually prophesying your victory. But too many people go around prophesying just the opposite. Joel says, if you say, I never get any good breaks, I'll never get back in shape. Business is slow. I'll probably get laid off. Blah, 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 blah. Then you're prophesying defeat. You don't want to convey that. What that does is it not only causes the person you're speaking to believe that about yourself, that, wow, that guy's a negative guy, or he really has a lot of problems. He has a lot of negativity in his life. Okay, so the individual who you're speaking to, how good do you think he feels right now? If somebody were to say that to me, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I need to go to a comedy show so I can feel better about myself, or at least laugh. That guy, or how many times have you been with somebody who was extremely negative, and you thought to yourself after the conversation, wow, I just need to talk to I need to get some, happy juice in me at this point in time. I need to go to a comedy show. I need to laugh. I need to, bring back some life in me. So when somebody speaks negative, in a negative manner to somebody they're trying to connect with, not only are they defeated at that point in time, but they're bringing down the person that they've talked to. Now, what you want to do when you are trying to build a connection, basically a network of people who are going to hopefully refer you, your character, to an organization for a job, is you want to come across as extremely positive. Things are going well. I'm still looking here. I'm still looking there. Things are going well. This is positive. This is positive. This is positive. Nobody wants to hear the negativity. Now, how does that come across? If you, like John Maxwell has stated, if you use the 3 components of communication, something you know, which is thought, something you feel, which is emotion, something you do, which is action. If you use all of those collectively in the conversation, now what you're conveying is that you yourself are a positive person. Always looking at the positive side of anything that may initially look negative. But not only are you looked at that way in a positive light, but you have increased the positivity of the individual you're speaking with. And remember what we said before, is that the people will not always remember what you said. They will not always remember what you did. But they will always remember how you made them feel. And that is the most important thing that you can take away from this conversation tonight. How are you making the person you're speaking to feel? And it's amazing. A lot of times I worked job booths, at job fairs. And nobody really wanted a resume reviewed because everyone came to me telling me that their resume was bad already. That's not a positive thing to say. The other thing is a lot of people would come to me and vent. My only concern was that they may have went to other company booths and vented. That's not what you want to do. Always maybe have an outlet, a friend afterwards that you can talk to and vent with. But during these networking activities, you have to psychologically put on a positive face, get a mental positive attitude, and then convey your positivity. No negative discussions. And then tell yourself before you go into those situations that you're going to stop talking and reroute your talking if it becomes negative. If you hear anything negative come out of your mouth, if you feel that you're conveying your emotions in a negative way, and if you think that your facial features are coming across in a negative manner, you're going to take a time out. You're going to stop. You're going to go and take a break, look in a mirror, go through a couple minutes of rehearsal again on how you want to look, how you want to show your emotion, and what you want to convey, and how you want to convey it in a positive manner, and then go back in the room. That will save you more heartache, longer success than you could ever hope for. All right, that one action would help you. So the key concept tonight, the more you do to go beyond words, the greater the chance you will connect with people. So the question I have for you tonight is, what visual technique do you need to improve to better connect with the people you're speaking with? All right, what visual technique do you need to improve to better connect with the people that you're speaking to? All right, think about that and leverage that, practice that for this week. And then we're going to see you on Tuesday of next week. Now, Brian and I will be on every week, and we're gonna finish the Everyone Communicates If You Connect with John Maxwell. We're trying to help veterans transition their military leadership to a very, very powerful civilian leader, and how to network, how to connect with people. All right, thank you, and we will see you in the future. Good luck out there. If you have any questions, please contact us at battlefieldresumes.com.